to school and you're worrying and you're crying and you're weeping. You're worrying about your job. There are some folk whose jobs have been sold and they don't know what is going to happen. And the saved folk have gotten to a point where the days they used to worship God, they take on a job to do on their day of worship, not trusting the God of their salvation, the God of their deliverance, the God who says in his word that I will supply your every need. Worry, a stronghold. It may seem like a small thing, but in essence, it is huge and can destroy your life and your health. It can destroy your mind. We read this in Matthew about worry, and we read it in Luke 12 about worrying. Now, Matthew is the personal name meaning the gift of Yahweh, the gift of God. He was a tax collector that Jesus called to be an apostle. His office was located on the main highway that ran from Damascus through to Jerusalem. His duty was to collect tolls or transport taxes from both the local merchants, the local folk, and farmers that were carrying their goods to market to be sold, as well as distant caravans passing through Galilee. He was an employee of Herod Antipas. He knew the value of goods of all description. He knew the value of local and foreign monetary systems. He spoke the local Aramaic language, as well as Greek. He was hated by his fellow Jews because he had leased his tolls. He grew wealthy by being a tax or toll collector. He is the same person they talk about in the Bible as being Levi. He had the gifts to be trained as a disciple. He could keep meticulous records. He was a potential recorder and author of the gospel. And his purpose was to show that Jesus had the power to command his disciples to spread his gospel throughout the entire world. Jesus knew who he was calling. He knew who Matthew could be. He knew who Luke could be. He was a physician. So his work as these guys went around and walked with Jesus, and Luke walked with Paul, he knew by what he saw what worrying was doing to people. As a doctor, he understood where they were. And as I look around today and I look on people and folk ending up in St. Brendan's and folk ending up in King Edward and folk ending up in Leahy Clinic and folk ending up in Johns Hopkins Hospital. Worry brings upon us many things. The stress of it all. How am I going to pay my mortgage or my rent? How am I going to make my car payment? My kids are going back to school. How do I get their fees paid? Worry and concern. As we read the Gospels, the word lets us know there are 4: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But as I was studying this week, they even look at the book of Romans as the 5th gospel. The 4 gospels talk about Jesus healing, delivering, the miracles, the teachings. But then in Romans, it tells you what it was all about, why he did this stuff. And one of them was, it was the word of God that brings about a change in our minds and in our hearts. In Matthew